second live stream, so I'm expecting more goofy stuff like that to happen as I continue to do these. But yeah, welcome on in. Thanks for joining here. So yeah, as I was saying, today I thought I'd cover this video that has been pretty viral. I guess it's kind of sparked more of the discourse on Israel, on AIPAC, the Israel lobby, and that's a great thing. This is, I think, one of, if not the most important political issue of our time right now. And so I always like to see the attention being shifted towards this and not on these other distractions, this noise that people, myself included, so easily have this tendency to kind of get wrapped up in and lose sight on what is important. So I thought I would kind of start things off by just jumping into this interview. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but because it's like 2 hours, but there are some interesting points that I did want to cover and just kind of start to unpack some of what Ted Cruz was saying and some of his lies. And I think maybe the most charitable view of Ted Cruz and other, senators, politicians like him who are aggressively pro-Israel is that there's a level of ignorance and they're just kind of repeating what they've been told. So it's impossible to know how much of it is that and how much of it is they are just flat out lying. It's most likely a good mix of both. But regardless, what we're going to do here is just have I guess this conversation guide some exploration into the history of how did we get here? How did we get to this point where we're sending $3.8 billion per year to Israel? How did we get to this point where on average, every American out of their own pockets, out of their own tax dollars, is sending $70 per year to Israel? That doesn't sound like a lot, but imagine if you had earned $70 per year from every American. I mean, the fact that even $1, even 1 cent is going to fund this genocide is just insane. It's just appalling. So we're gonna go into this, and I'll just kind of comment along the way. Let me share my screen. I apologize in advance for any kind of slow transitions here. I don't even have an intro. If you didn't notice, like I need to get, if there's anyone tuned in who's like decent at like video editing and stuff, I could really use a proper stream intro instead of just going live like I just did. But let me get this screen shared here. Okay. Now let's do this. Okay. So let's go over to the interview, and I have it queued up here because like they start out talking about the regime change in Syria, the Iraq war. So they're kind of setting the stage for, this geopolitical discussion. Where I thought was relevant to start here was this section on why aren't U.S. politicians focused on fixing America's problems? And instead, sending, why are we concerned with Israel, right? Why has this been in the news cycle for the past 2 years now? I don't even watch Fox News, but when I'm visiting my parents, like they've got it on, and it's just constant. Like they're basically a mouthpiece for Israel. It's like, why are we talking about Israel all the time? And then they'll, and it goes into this in the interview. Cruz kind of fires back at Tucker and says like, oh, you guys are obsessed with Israel. All you talk about is Israel. It's like, that's you guys. All you do is talk about Israel, right? Like that. Why are you guys talking about it so much? All right. So let's get into this here. Oh, no sound. Hang on. Yeah, see, there we go. All right, let me this is StreamYard. So let me fix this here. I remember this happened last time where it was like not letting me get audio when I share the browser. So what I have to do is, oh, this is going to be so annoying. I've got to share the browser tab. So every time I'm going to be switching a lot of tabs here. This is what I meant. So I'm going to be doing a lot of tab switching, and it only lets you I have to unshare and then reshare again every time I switch tabs. So that's insanely annoying. All right, let me do this here. Share browser tab. Okay. Yeah, that's so, yeah, it only lets me do the audio on tab. So, all right, whatever.
Well, you tell me, you vote for it.
Yeah, it's about $3 billion a year is the military assistance.
Is that the only assistance?
Yeah, we just have military assistance. Israel does not have additional assistance. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and it's $3 billion a year.
So what is it costing to support the bombing campaign to protect Israel right now from Iran?
So I don't know right now, but I'll tell you this. Let's go back to the touchstone on foreign policy, American interest. Our support, our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security
But what
interest,
does it
and
cost?
it benefits us enormously.
Well, before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it, I think we need to know what it costs. So what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No, that's the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers to the region, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know. And there's some lag when the administration, under the Constitution, the commander-in-chief has control of the armed forces. And so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time, but I don't know the last week.
You guys remember when Ted Cruz was just the Zodiac killer? And now he's the I guess the Palestinian baby killer.
I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum of understanding, and that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel.
Yeah, and that's an important point, is that we actually don't even know exactly how much is being sent. That's a probably pretty liberal estimation, or I guess conservative estimation rather, because that's only accounting for certain military spending. So yeah, someone mentioned in the chat here that Father John Whiteford posted that it's 18 million just for one of their missiles. So it's really kind of impossible to know exactly how much, but even if it's in that ballpark of 3.8 billion per year, our country is in $36 trillion of debt. That's never getting paid. Like, that's money that just doesn't exist. Like, we're borrowing all this money to send to Israel that doesn't exist. Well, we're paying for it too out of our tax dollars.
Israel shares, the Mossad is one of the best intelligence sources on the planet. The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap.
Okay. And we know, so here's where it starts. We know that the people who love Israel, this is actually just, he's just reversing this. Yeah. Are there people who hate Israel and hate us too? Of course. There's countries that hate both of us. They probably hate us mostly because of our involvement in Israel's genocide. But, that's just he's just kind of playing into this. You'll see him get into this later, where this whole dichotomous thing where it's like, oh, you're an anti-Semite if you don't support Israel or whatever. He even accuses Tucker of being an anti-Semite, which is hilarious. But yeah, you'll just see, this is where the lies start to unfold.
And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, 30 billion, 300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Hang on. Why am I getting subtitles in Espanol?
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot.
Really?
We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do
Probably.
as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
And that's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all. Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the.
Why are we talking about socialism now? Now, this is a diversion. Because this is a very uncomfortable question for these politicians to answer. I mean, he just admitted it's not like it's a mystery. I mean, it'd be really stupid to, as any person who's in politics, to deny that there's domestic surveillance going on in the United States. So that's not like it's a big mystery. What they hide is to what degree, but the thing is. And what he's getting at here is that actually Mossad is spying on us as well, which we all know. That's what he's not, that's what he's not disclosing here.
From each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not.
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that, and by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest.
But I just want to stop on this flying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. Is that?
Yeah. Why are we calling people who spy on us our friends? Because our friends spy on us. Like it's for our good. It's like it's for the better of our country. It's for our national security that our friends are looking. They're just looking out for us. Well, they're spying on citizens. They're not like that. That's how this is all justified. Is that it's surveillance for terrorism, and now this narrative is starting to be crafted where it's for securing the borders for illegal immigrants. We're seeing that going on with the riots and stuff, alongside these developments with Palantir's surveillance program. And so why, how is that our friends? Our friends don't spy on us, actually. I don't have it. Do you guys have any friends that spy on you? I don't. Like, that's so weird to say that.
It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Sure, I would say don't spy on us. They're going to anyway. And by the way, the Brits are, the Canadians are. Like, I don't think.
Well, I'm not for that at all.
Yeah,
I think it's disgusting. But we don't actually pay their. We're not their most meaningful sponsor. We're not sort of paying for the opportunity.
The thing is, like, this is when you break this down, it's super. This is so insane that we are actually paying foreign intelligence to spy on us. We are paying them with our tax dollars for them to surveil us. Like, just think about that for a second, how insane that is. That's what's really going on.
Operations of the British
government.
I
gotta say, and this is, it's weird. We're talking about isolationists, the obsession with Israel. Why is Israel?
Oh, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot of people are.
Why are you obsessed with
Israel? Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess. No. I'm hardly the one who's. I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel
from AIPAC?
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals
Okay.
So it's not the pack itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship.
Okay, this is what I wanted to break down here. This is where we're going to start to get into the history of the Israeli lobby and who's really behind this. So Cruz here, I'm going to let this play, but Cruz is going to set this up and try to downplay it too by saying that this is not tied. The AIPAC is not tied to the Israeli government. It's just a bunch of individuals who just have Israel's best interest in mind. And so he's going to kind of it's funny how he downplays this. I'll let it play. And then what we're going to do is look into who's really behind the Israel lobby and how this is actually a lie, that it is completely connected to the Israeli government, as you can imagine.
Is the AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen.
Yeah, okay.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with these.
So they don't lobby for so he's trying to downplay it here. And then so the question is, if it's not effective, if this Israel lobby is not effective, why is this being like jammed down our throats 24/7 in this news cycle, rallying support for us to justify the US government being involved with this? How is it not effective if it's been actually completely effective? Because how did we get to this point? How did we get to this if not for the Israel lobby? So that's just like he's trying to downplay it, and he sounds like a complete idiot.
Stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like they're focused on online.
You wish they were more effective.
Fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC.
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
What do they lobby for then? What do they lobby for? Okay, so there's a break here in the video. So what I'm going to do is we're going to share. This is what's behind the Israel lobby. Let's take a look here. So again, give me a second because now I've got to change these tabs. So we're going to look at this here.
We continue our interview with Jim Loby, Bureau Chief of Interpress Service in Washington, about the neoconservative movement, the Israeli lobby, its backers, and its critics.
AIPAC, apart from being the most well-organized lobby in the U.S., is extremely well-financed as well. Where did their financial power come from?
I know that one donor who has emerged in the past decade as a key donor is Sheldon Adelson, who owns the Las Vegas Sands in Las Vegas and has, in the last 10 years, opened casinos in Macau. And he's now the third wealthiest American, according to Fortune magazine, or Forbes or Fortune.
And most people haven't even heard of Sheldon Adelson. I mean, this is pretty old. This is from 17 years ago. So I don't know. He probably isn't the third wealthiest American anymore. But who knows? I mean, all this wealth is hidden anyway. I don't know how they even know that, but this is from 17 years ago, but I would imagine he's still one of the wealthiest individuals in America. And this is who's behind it. And most people haven't heard of Sheldon Adelson.
Can't remember which. I think his value is worth anywhere between like 12 and like $30 billion. So he has a lot of money.
It's not even that much anymore.
He offered essentially to be the major donor for AIPAC and for its new building. He's very, very close to former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and to Natan Sharansky, who's, I think, the most influential. He's very, very close to former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and to Natan Sharansky, who's, I think, the most influential. And to Natan Sharansky, who's, I think, the most influential. And to Natan Sharansky, who's, I think, the most influential. the part of the Shalem Center in Israel, which is a Netanyahu Likud kind of front think tank. And he founded his own institute there, the Adelson Institute, which is headed by Sharansky. He's, I think, the biggest contributor to the Republican Jewish Coalition, which is a very neoconservative pro-Likudist group. And he was a founder and by far the biggest contributor of a new kind of lobby group called Freedom's Watch, which will try to influence races in congressional races in particular in November. There are other quite wealthy individuals who are major backers of AIPAC, give a lot of money to AIPAC. I think the person who may be most helpful on this actually is Michael Massing. Michael Massing has written quite a bit on the Israel lobby and has been a kind of good corrective to the basic Walt Mersheimer thesis as it was first published in the London Review books.
What was your take on the Walt Mersheimer thesis?
I think they're putting the issue of the influence of Israel lobby, and by that I mean the Conference of American Presidents, AIPAC, the really big organizations, putting their influence on U.S. foreign policy into the debate is absolutely critical, because particularly under this Bush administration, what we've seen is things go seriously bad in the Middle East. And I think a lot of that has been due to that influence, that neoconservative influence on U.S. foreign policy that these large American or influential American Jewish organizations have in one way or another endorsed and then pushed. I mean, their idea of Israel is something along the two-state solution and getting it done. And they see Israel without such a solution, still holding on to Arab lands and so on, as a serious drag on U.S. foreign policy successes in the region, as a detriment. They took a realist position, but not one that I think in any way compromises or would compromise Israel's security, so long as it defines its borders somewhat more modestly than it does at the present time. That, in other words, I think they were saying that support for Israel should not be unconditional, that there should be clear conditions.
Right. So I want to look into Sheldon Adelson a little bit more so we can understand what's going on here. Let me again switch this over. Here's what I'll do here. Let's do this so I can actually switch tabs. There's going to be no audio. I won't play any videos right now, but so this is Sheldon Adelson. No early life check necessary here, obviously, but yeah, so he owned the Israeli daily newspaper, Israel Hayom. So he's, he owns all these media companies, publications, newspapers, whatnot. And here's an interesting fact. He was Donald Trump's largest donor in 2016 and 2020, providing the largest donation to Trump's 2016 campaign. His presidential inauguration, his defense fund against the Mueller investigation into Russian interference, and the 2020 campaign. He was also a major backer of Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So, and as of 2020, he's estimated worth 29.8 billion. All right, Lithuanian and Ukrainian Jewish. His grandfather's a Welsh coal miner. So, yeah, I mean, you can see here he owns the Sands Casino, kind of spreading it throughout the country. He owns a bunch of casinos and stuff. So, Israeli press. All right, so he's purchasing all these Israeli newspapers, not beating these allegations that you often hear. So yeah, internet gambling. I mean, this is his bread and butter is gambling, this guy. So real Real dirtbag type of guy. Look at him. Is he a manlet? What's going on here? Is he sitting down or is he just like a really short dude? That's what a picture that is. Zion Dawn. So, I mean, yeah, you can see that it's like, this is why Trump can't go, like, this is one of the reasons Trump can't go against the Israel lobby. I mean, this is just, it's inescapable. And Trump, even like early in his campaign, he was talking a lot about like the pharma lobby and kind of diverting from the Israel lobby and saying that the pharma lobby was the biggest lobby in the United States. I don't know if that is or isn't true. I would have to look into that. Someone might know, but I can imagine the Israel lobby is up there. And the fact is that's, that yes, the pharma lobby is evil, but the Israel lobby is like, this is for a foreign country. Like this is a lobby for a foreign country. And it's one of the biggest in the United States. So Sheldon Adelson is also mentioned, where is it here? And this is in Alison Weir's book, called Against Our Better Judgment, which if you are a member of the Reversion Book Club, this was one of our readings for last month, actually. So this came at a very appropriate time. And this goes into the hidden history of the creation of the State of Israel and the U.S. involvement in it. So it's like all about how did we even get involved in this in the first place, in this conflict in the Middle East. And so, yeah, you can see here that that's kind of where it's saying that again, that he was the biggest funder of Donald Trump. The equation is simple: to control both sides, and you control the game, and so the outcome. And this, by the way, for those who don't know, Alison Weir is like an S-tier researcher who uncovered a lot of incredible research on the creation of the State of Israel, particularly in the U.S., the U.S. involvement. And there's an incredible amount of footnotes. It's very well researched. I mean, you can see all the footnotes here. There's like over 100 pages of footnotes, I think. Where are we? I don't know which copy this is. This is a much bigger copy than the hard copy I have, but yeah, I mean, it's full of footnotes. Look at all that. I mean, this is actually, I don't know which version this is, but the hard copy I have, it's got more footnotes than it has primary text. So it's incredibly well researched. By the way, her website, it's called If Americans Knew. This is a fantastic resource for all this stuff. A little bit outdated. You can tell it kind of has this like Web 2 look to it, but really valuable resource. I think almost everything, if not the entire site, has been archived across the web. I have it archived on my local server, but this is like a gold mine of very well documented resources. So, but anyway, so in this text here, and this was written, I believe, about 10 to 15 years ago, maybe a little more. Talked about, so there's a reference to Soros here. Yeah, I mean, really recommend looking into this book here. So that's Sheldon Adelson. What we're going to do is like look at some of these, I guess, lesser known figures. I think if we have time, we'll get into a little bit of how this whole, like how the theology developed. How did this dispensationalism play into it, winning over evangelical support? So, I've done some research on this myself. I don't know if maybe I should reserve this for another episode, because there was, surprise, there was some occult influence in the development of dispensationalism, the rapture doctrine, and all this that, plays a huge role in the spiritual justification for Christian support of Zionism. So, I've got some resources on that, but let's I guess get back to the interview here and see where this goes.
Thousands of colleges and universities and a lot of those that give free based until zero cost Netanyahu. Last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu.
All the time.
Name one.
Okay.
That's a great question. Tucker, by the way, kills it on this interview. I don't watch Tucker often. This kind of topic, I'm definitely going to watch him on it. But he, the little bit that I saw from this, even some of the clips, he crushed it. He cooked Ted Cruz, man. I mean, we all saw the viral clips, like there's like a handful of them. From what I saw, like I kind of breezed through this. It's like that pretty much throughout this. Cruz is like just seething the whole time.
Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No.
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay,
and
it's not has nothing to do with the forein government.
Okay. I don't even know if that's what their official statement is, but that's definitely not what AIPAC's mission is. In fact, I'm gonna. It's almost pointless to look up what their public kind of mission statement is, but I'm curious. I know you guys can't see this. I'm looking on a different tab on if they have anything on their website about. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be bringing bipartisan support to the U.S.-Israel relationship in America. I mean, he's right that at least on the very surface level, that's what they are. That's what they're claiming their mission is about. Although anything that comes out of Israel, like anything that involves the Israeli-American relationship, is filtered through the Israeli government, just like it's filtered through our government. So it's just kind of it's extremely dishonest to say that it's like this entity that's completely acting on their own and they have no involvement whatsoever in the Israeli government. That's just retarded. So there's no way. And we saw actually recently in another interview that if we have time, I'll play some clips from this, but one of the recent Piers Morgan debates he had on Dave Smith with this Israeli lawyer, and he completely cooks this Israeli lawyer and exposes how controlled she is. He's asking her really blunt questions, like how many civilians has Israel killed, and she won't answer it. So like all this really like kind of questions that we should know. He exposes how all of the journalism in Israel is completely controlled. So they bring all the any journalist who is actually permitted to do on the ground reporting anywhere in Israel is given a very controlled narrative and is exposed to a very select few things. So, and they're, and what comes out of their reports is obviously controlled. So it's like, it's just completely, it's completely manufactured, but it's a really good interview for that. I would actually recommend showing it to your boomer conservative family members or friends who, want a, like, I guess a more honest look at this. Like that's not, having to show them like Europa or something, like you got to ease people into this stuff. So like show them something like that, where it's like, hey, why, it's just asked a simple question. Like, why is all of the reporting that comes out of this Israel conflict on the Israel side so blatantly controlled to the point where you can like watch this lawyer on the ropes, dodging all of these questions that should be public. We should know the answers to these questions, or we do, and she's just not disclosing them. But anyway, let me get back to this here.
wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
It's not true.
no, and
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
no idea. I
Any, do you
imagine
think?
some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC
Do you
because
think there's
AIPAC's
any-
not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby.
But so this is why this is ridiculous, because let's say AIPAC is only there to help aid this the relations and the discourse between Israel and the U.S. Can you imagine that there's anything, any kind of like negative outcome for Israel that would result in that? Right? Do you think AIPAC would allow for these relations to continue that they're funding this discourse for? And the outcome of this turns out to be like, well, we decided, we had these conversations, we had these relations with, between America and Israel. And like, we as Americans decided that we want to opt out of, funding to a certain degree, even not even completely. Let's just say like, we want to scale back our funding of the Israeli military. Can you imagine that outcome? That's how you know that it's actually benefiting the Israeli military, the Israeli government.
Washington, I like a lot of those countries, including
okay,
Israel.
but AIPAC are Americans. They're not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
and
but
why
because
aren't
what
they,
you're saying is false.
Why aren't they registered
What
as
you're
a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is that there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions. And you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
and of being
isolationist
feverish about it, which I'm not at all.
Well, there's also financial incentives to keep it an NGO on paper, so that they're not affiliated with any government entity, so that all of this funding is tax write-offs. So like that's a big part of this, right? Like that's I don't know if anyone's mentioning that here, but that's I think the probably obvious reason why on paper it's just like, no, it's just this like individually ran NGO. It's all grassroots, right?
I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
So Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate in 2012. I came in Obama's second term. And I actually saw AIPAC be badly wounded in a way they never came back from. And the second term is when Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. And the Iran nuclear deal, I think, was catastrophic. And AIPAC went all in lobbying against it.
Yeah.
And they failed. And I was the leading opponent of the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, I know. They definitely failed. Yes.
They failed. And what happened, the Obama White House told every Democrat, when I got here, there used to be real bipartisan support for Israel. That has largely disappeared. And it's the Obama nuclear deal that caused it, because the Obama White House told every Democrat, pick. You either stand with Israel or you're a Democrat and you stand with the Obama White House. And almost every single Democrat member of Congress said, I'm a Democrat first, to hell with Israel. And then
based why are the Democrats, why is the Obama administration, I don't even know how true this is and to what extent, but if this is the case, why can't we return to that? Why isn't that the conservative position? Right? How did we get to this point where the conservatives are the war hawks and the ones that are, Israel first? And it was like, he's framing this in a way that it's like the Obama administration was actually America first. I mean, we know that that's not true. Obama was drone bombing, Syria and stuff. So it's like there was still that going on, but yeah, it's just so goofy.
I watched as AIPAC every one of those Democrats got reelected, and AIPAC did nothing about it. And it dramatically reduced AIPAC's influence.
I
It would
agree.
be, it
I
would be
watched
as
it
if-
happen.
And by the way, I told AIPAC, I said, look, the analogy, if the NRA was supporting a bunch of politicians and cared about the Second Amendment, and you had politicians that vote to confiscate people's guns, and the NRA turned around and raised money for the people who voted to confiscate guns, you know what? No one would ever care what they said again.
So you're making the case that AIPAC is not as powerful as people say it is, and I completely agree with you. I've watched that, and I'm not making the case that AIPAC is all powerful and they're running everything and putting fluoride in the water. I'm not making that case at all, because that's not true. I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered. And you're saying, no, that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
Of course, I coordinate. Do they talk with them? I don't know what they do.
Yes, of course
But
they
why
do.
don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if
Yeah, wait. So he admitted earlier on that he receives a lot of funding. He didn't say how much. They never will tell you how much, but he said he receives a lot of funding from AIPAC, but he doesn't know to what extent they're involved with a foreign government. It's just absurd. I mean, he's either this ignorant or he's just lying. I think he's probably lying. If I were to assume, this is just he's lying. Or it's possible he just doesn't care. But I think it's probably more likely that he knows exactly what they do and what their involvement is. That's just so ridiculous.
foreign government.
Hey, I talk with Israel all the time. I talk with foreign countries all the time.
But the
Why?
law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working.
So that's exactly why they keep that public appearance of not being connected to a state entity. That's exactly why, because they'll have to register, and then it involves, there's different. I don't know exactly how it works, but I mean, I don't think you could get the same kind of like tax benefits of donating to an NGO as you do donating to a government entity. I don't know exactly how that works, but I'm pretty positive there's some financial benefit in not being registered.
From Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations. I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and if I don't, I can go to jail. And people have gone to jail.
Yeah, it's illegal.
So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. They're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating with the Israeli government.
Do you know how AIPAC raises money?
It's not only not true, it is false. That's just like you're saying the same thing. It's not only not true, it's false. It's not only false, it's false.
For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
I get it. I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with them.
So what they'll do is, in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser. And they'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who will host it. And it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, someone who hosts it. And you get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city.
Right.
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship.
Yeah.
And if they have, 50 people, each of them writes $1,000 check. And you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. I know what it looks like.
But that is not. And by the way, there's no representative of the
Okay,
Israeli
just
government there.
downplaying
You
this.
have when you're in Dallas,
This
you're
is
meeting
such a
with.
false and silly conversation.
Yeah.
I know all this. The question is are AIPAC's goals?
So he's trying to downplay it and divert from these really straightforward questions. And then he starts trying to gaslight Tucker for asking him these questions.
Shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's
a really
different
simple
from
question.
lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you that question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Okay, are they shaped by? Is that?
Are they coordinating with the Israeli
course.
government?
Are they talking
to
with them?
represent
Yes.
the
Is
Israeli
Israel
government?
directing them? You want to talk about FARA? The law on lobbying on behalf of someone.
Yeah.
It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they are not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but
Or do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics?
No.
And you began.
Yeah,
and
listen to how emotional Ted is. He's so worked up. He's so fired up over this. Why is he so defensive over these really straightforward questions? If he just answered these questions calmly, like the best way to downplay this, if it were even possible to downplay this, these outrageous facts, the best way to do it, I guess, would be like just be calm and just answer them straightforward. But these slimeball politicians, it's impossible for them to do that.
So transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the.
Do we have a $3.8 billion Chinese lobby? Do we have a $3.8 billion British lobby? What? It's just this gaslighting is just insane. We're the ones obsessed for asking where all this money is going and why. That's like, we are obsessed with this, not them. It's not the ones that are like shoving this propaganda down our throats. It's us. It's our fault for being obsessed with Israel. Just shouldn't ask any questions. Don't ask any questions about Israel. Just accept what they're telling you. Just tune into the 24/7 nonstop news cycle of Israeli news on Fox News, the Israeli news network. Like what? It's just the gaslight. This stuff is not working anymore. And this is why this has gone viral, because people aren't buying this anymore. This is all going to die with the boomer generation. It's going to be phased. It's already being phased out. Like and all of the likes on social media, by the way, this is like all botted likes when you see these Israeli talking points that are coming out of like these IDF command centers that they're posting. So actually, we'll look at that right now. As I think we're getting into another topic here anyway, but a couple more things I want to look at before we continue here. Again, let me switch over. I'm going to have things like more finely tuned for the next time, because it's really annoying having to keep switching over these tabs and stuff. Okay. So, all right, let me go back to the. We'll go back to here. Okay. So, what do we want to look at here? Yeah. So where did AIPAC come from? More on this on the If Americans Knew website. And this is also in Alison Weir's book. So there was in 1963, there was an investigation into AIPAC. And let me see, where are we here? I need my highlights. Fulbright held that the investigation was done by Fulbright, who held that these 1963 Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing on foreign agents in a series of closed sessions, the May 23rd and August 1st sessions focused entirely on Israel-related operations, although subsequent news accounts and books would summarize or reference the outcome of the hearings, often with errors or omissions. Few ever captured the lengthy, penetrating, and captivating verbal exchanges between Senator Fulbright and witnesses from the organization subpoenaed to testify. A typical reference of the omission, published in 1970 by a now defunct Dow Jones weekly newspaper, The National Observer, neatly summarized the investigation's outcome. In 1963, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee investigated the Jewish agency and uncovered a conduit operation run by an organization called the American Zionist Council. Over an 8-year period, this council received more than $5 million from the Jewish agency to create a favorable public opinion in this country for Israeli government policies. The Senate investigation closed down the conduit, but the extensive propaganda activity still goes on. Okay, and we see this going on in social media. So, I mean, obviously this is, 1963, this is all being done through printed publications and news broadcasts, which were much fewer and easier to control at the time. And so to, kind of adapt to the digital age, we now have stuff like this going on, where you see all this is the NPC, like this NPC narrative, the new NPC take, right? So all these congressmen, senators, politicians who are parroting this same stuff about supporting Israel. Here's a great, this Randy Fine is a piece of work. This Congressman Randy Fine, bombs away. Praying for Israel. So they all want you to know they're praying for Israel. I'm praying for the church too, by the way. We should all pray for the church. Join me in praying for Israel. God bless Israel. You're in our prayers. So it's all the same take, right? So this is what it's really actually low effort, low tier propaganda now that is just, these US politicians just publicly expressing their veneration. It's like this big mass veneration ritual for Israel. So there's all this controlled stuff that's going on in social media too. I just recently wrote an article on this. You can check it out on the Substack, thereversion.co. That's how you can find this. It's called Digital Zionist Supremacy. So I'll just show you how to find this here. A lot of people ask me, how to find my articles. You just go, what is going on here? Yeah, if you go to the Reversion, you can see my recent posts here. Click see all. Oh, that's my internet. I don't know what's going on with that. But this is one that I just wrote recently. Why? Okay, so if you click on articles, it's the second one here. Another relevant article here, Kabbalah and the Christian Zionist Conspiracy. So it goes more into the history. But this is what's going on now. So, and actually I had a bunch of these videos that I posted that were removed for whatever reason. Oh, it's still here. Okay, good. So, this goes into these command centers in the Israeli Defense Force that are set up for cyber warfare. All these operations that are meant to spread propaganda, silence dissent, gaslight people, all the usual propaganda tactics. So, you can see these videos and stuff. I know there's no audio here, but I'll share. Well, actually, I'll play one. I'll play one shortly here, but because there's a video I have that kind of condenses all this. But colleges. So they're on college campuses. They're in community centers, right? This is act.il. Some of these organizations are defunct now, or at least publicly. I think we know that at least the JIDF, the Jewish Internet Defense Force, is publicly defunct but still operational. So here's a photo of one of these human bot farms, coming out of what seems to be some kind of college community center or something. Oh, this is Boston. Okay, the Boston Media Room, combining Jewish philanthropies of Greater Boston, which states media room ambassadors are students and adult mentors who are trained with the knowledge, skills, and tools to positively influence public discourse by developing pro-Israel social media campaigns. So it's all to make it look like it's all grassroots and organic. And there's just all this organic support for Israel in America. And it's just literal, human bot farms that are funded by the IDF. So, you can look more into this. Again, I'm pretty sure there's a free article. I didn't paywall this. So I have my sources here, but you can go check that out. Let me switch tabs again so we can watch this video, which is also relevant. So you can see kind of where this is all coming from. And this is a little bit old, but you could imagine that the scale of these operations at this point. And there's not a whole lot of like current research being done on this particular thing about the Israeli military and government censorship operations on social media. Where is it here? Okay, here we go. Well, this is kind of long, so I'll just see. I mean, it's 15 minutes. Where this is going.
While many groups and governments wish to censor the internet, Israel and its partisans are among the most globally significant. They work to promote the Israel narrative while blocking facts about Palestine, the Israel lobby, and other subjects they wish to cover up. Much of this is done by devoted individuals acting independently, voluntarily.
There's a praying for Israel. Praying for Israel, you guys.
Relentlessly. But many
This is the Babylon Bee headquarters here.
of these activists are part of orchestrated, well-funded projects sponsored by the Israeli government and other pro-Israel groups. They utilize Israeli soldiers, students, American teens and seniors, and range from infiltrating Wikipedia to influencing YouTube. As we'll see, some even operate out of Jewish community centers in the US. One such group is the Israeli military's New Media Desk.
It is well known nowadays that what happens on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has great influence on events as they occur on the ground. The internet, too, is a battleground. It is thus comforting to learn that the IDF employs soldiers who tweet, share, like, and more.
That's who's on the other side of.
Initiated.
By the way, when you're arguing with Zionists on social media, that's who's on the other side. This is who you're arguing
Like,
with.
and more. Employs soldiers who battleground.
This is who you're arguing with. This is the back and forth you're having that you're wasting all day on X, getting into these debates with. This is who's on the other side.
Thus comforting to learn that the IDF employs soldiers who tweet, share, like, and more.
Another project initiated in 2011 by the National Union of Israeli Students has the stated goal to deepen and expand Hasbara, or state propaganda activities of students in the state of Israel. Under this program, Israeli students are paid to, quote, lead the battle against hostile websites.
They do this with Wikipedia
what many
too.
would call shilling or trolling in online forums and social media. They're directed to create original content in the form of news reports and blogs, edit Wikipedia.
Look at that physiognomy. That looks like oh my gosh, you cannot depict these people in the profile view. It just looks like the Happy Merchant. Oh, hey, look at this anti-Semitic meme. That's again, this is who you're arguing with, guys.
Pro-Israel messages into discussions on social media.
So this is so organic. This is all just organic petitioning all this support, garnering all the support for Israel,
as well as to report and remove what they consider to be allegedly anti-Semitic content. It's important to note that criticism of Israel is not the same thing as anti-Semitism, despite Israel's best efforts to redefine the word.
Anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism.
Anti-Zionism is anti-history, anti-humanity, and anti-Semitic. It's pure anti-Semitism. Let's use our power on social media to educate our society.
Now, interestingly, this charity, the International Holocaust Remembrance Association, has also given a number of examples of what sort of behavior should be called out alongside this, which are actions which seek to stereotype Jewish people, to justify attacking or killing them, claiming that the state of Israel is a racist endeavor, or comparing it to Nazi Germany.
When there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it.
It's a trick.
When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust.
What a mask-off moment that is. Wow. It's a trick. We always bring it up when there's dissent. Oh, it's a trick, huh?
When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic.
Now, I know what they do because I used to ask them to do it.
Wow.
I mean, when I was in the Mossad and we had a guy that gave us problems in the U.S., and he was speaking out.
As you can imagine, this video is, I think this entire channel is shadow banned on YouTube. So big surprise there. But yeah, this is the If Americans Knew YouTube channel. So again, a gold mine of resources on this.
And he was talking like Pete talked once and said, Israel is bombing Lebanon with cluster bombs. We say, hey, who's that guy? You know? And of course the campaign starts, and before you know it, the guy's labeled. And he's an anti-Semite, because that's what we say he is.
Another pro-Israel organization that targets public information on the internet is CAMERA, the Committee for Accuracy in...
The thing is, this whole tactic is going to soon lose its power. This crying about anti-Semitism, it's already not as nearly effective as it used to be. Like, people just aren't afraid. They can see right through it now. Like, they're not afraid to be called anti-Semites anymore because it's lost its sting. It kind of doesn't really mean much anymore. I mean, they even define it. We saw this on one of Candace Owens' interviews with not Shmuley, but one of these other rabbis, I think, who was like writing these hit pieces against her. And he literally is on there saying that anti-Semitism has a morphing definition. So it essentially changes its definition with how severely they need to weaponize it against dissent, and what they need to kind of craft their narrative around. So it's like this completely arbitrary definition, and people are starting to catch on to that. And it's losing it's losing the efficacy it once had, where people are going to no longer be afraid to be called that, because it's the same as like what happened with being called homophobic or racist or something. It's like it kind of just doesn't mean anything anymore. People are realizing that these are just subjective terms that it's all this weaponized language. It's starting to really lose its effectiveness in how it can control public discourse.
In Middle East reporting in America. A 2008 expose revealed a CAMERA initiative to infiltrate Wikipedia in order to rewrite Palestinian history, pass off crude propaganda as fact, and take over Wikipedia administrative structures to ensure these changes go either undetected or unchallenged. Leaked.
Okay, so and then I'll just say this real quick as well. This is why don't always go to Wikipedia. I mean, I think we all know this, but especially with this kind of stuff, because it kind of presents itself as like, oh, it's this open sourced encyclopedia that anyone can go in and edit. Well, they've got like round the clock monitoring from the Israeli government on all of these articles that involve Israel and the Jewish people and the Israel lobby and all this stuff that they're monitoring 24/7. To make sure that like they know exactly what's on there, like there's nothing that's like slipping under the radar on Wikipedia. So this is why, even in the internet age, it's like the information, even though it's like accessible to everyone, it's becoming harder and harder to find this stuff. And so this is why, one of the reasons why we have this book club where we're diving into this kind of like some of the literature we're reading is banned. And by that, I mean, it's like you can't even find the books on Amazon, or you might not even know that the books exist because for whatever reasons, they're not being read or discussed. And so when you go straight to these books that have all this reference material in the books themselves, it's like that really, you can question the author, but like when you have all these references there, it just takes you down all these rabbit holes. And, it's much better to acquire this kind of knowledge from books than from the internet, because it's increasingly more difficult to find the truth. I mean, even this video we're watching, you have to know that it's there, and then you have to know how to find it. So you're not going to find it with a YouTube search.
Just go either undetected or unchallenged. Leaked emails from CAMERA called for volunteers to secretly work on editing Wikipedia entries. They were instructed to, quote, avoid for obvious reasons picking a username that marks you as pro-Israel or that lets people know your real name. The emails emphasized
those don't have a contributor, Haim Solomon,
that volunteers were to avoid editing Israel-related articles for a short period of time after signing up as editors to avoid arousing suspicion, and to always log in, because if you make changes while not logged in, Wikipedia will record your computer's IP address. In 2010, 2 Israeli groups began offering community workshops on Zionist editing of Wikipedia entries with the aim of making sure that information in the online encyclopedia reflects the worldview of Zionist groups.
Moetzet Yesha, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged Instruction Day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence
We want to be the guys.
how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
We want to be Netanyahu's top guy.
And again in 2013, there was evidence of pro-Israel tampering with Wikipedia when an employee of an Israeli institute called NGO Monitor edited articles about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in an allegedly biased manner. According to the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, Dreiman concealed the facts that he was an employee of NGO Monitor and that he was using a second username, which is forbidden under Wikipedia's rules.
So Haaretz is another really, I think, at least in terms of like liberals and Zionists and Jewish people, pretty reputable source. So I always am going to prefer, when I'm citing stuff, Jewish sources, because it's like it presents the it presents this predicament to people who are questioning this stuff and who are critical to it, because then they are forced with having to acknowledge like this came from a Jewish source. So either they're lying or it's, then you have to basically say like all this Jewish media is lying, which is like, okay, well, so then you're an anti-Semite too. Or, there's some truth to it, because it's why would they report on this kind of stuff that doesn't portray them in a favorable way, right?
In 2017, yet another Israeli project was launched with the intention of controlling discourse and promoting a pro-Israel narrative online. Known as ACT-IL, the project uses a software application that leverages the power of communities to support Israel through organized online activity. The software is a joint venture of Israel's IDC University, the Israeli American Council, and another American group called the Maccabee Task Force, which was created to combat the international boycott of Israel over its human rights abuses.
They're definitely not subtle with the naming of these organizations. They think they can, LARP as anons on their Wikipedia editing, but Maccabee Task Force is quite on the nose, isn't it?
Legit terms, an anti-Semitic movement. The project is also supported by Israel's Strategic Affairs Ministry and Israel's intelligence community. Its CEO is an 8-year veteran of Israeli army intelligence named Yarden Ben Yosef. Israeli media Ynet News reports that the Israeli military has begun scouring Jewish communities abroad for young computer prodigies to recruit for its ranks.
In Operations Pillar of Defense and Protective Edge, we set up the first advocacy situation rooms here at IDC. We operated together with hundreds of volunteers who work around the clock for Israel on social media networks. Through the operations, we realized that when many people work together, it is effective. This understanding led IAC and IDC to partner and found ACT-IL, the online community for Israel.
Jewish news site The Forward calls ACT-IL a new entry into the online propaganda war that has thousands of mostly US-based volunteers who can be directed from Israel into a social media swarm.
Like, I don't know if they lack the self-awareness, these mainstream Jewish publications, but either they lack the self-awareness to know, or they're like, there's some kind of intentional like mask off thing, or they're just assuming they only have Jewish readers or something. It's not getting in the hands of all these anti-Semites or something like that.
Its work so far offers a startling glimpse of how it could shape the online conversations about Israel without ever showing its hand. The Forward article reports that the project recruits Jewish teens and adults and sometimes operates out of local Jewish community centers. They are referred to as media rooms, and there are at least 5 of them planned or active in the United States, including 1 in Boston, 2 in New Jersey.
Those are all the upvotes that these pro-Zionist posts are getting. They should. They all have they're all wearing their yarmulkes.
And 1 opening soon in New York. After being given ACT-IL advocacy training, the volunteers are instructed to complete missions, which are assigned from a headquarters in Herzliya, Israel. The Forward reports that in November, the Boston Media Room created a mission for the app that asked users to email a Boston area church to complain about a screening there of a documentary that is critical of Israel.
Uh-oh.
The proposed text of the email likened the screening of the film to a white supremacist riot.
Ah, okay.
In reality, the film, Occupation of the American Mind, investigates Israel's PR war in the U.S. and was promoted by respected American progressives, including Democracy Now!'s Amy Goodman.
We hear over and over again that the conflict comes down to Palestinian terrorism and Israeli security.
If rockets fly on your head, you're allowed to defend yourself.
And what gets pushed out of the frame entirely is the fact that for almost 50 years, Palestinians have been systematically dispossessed from their land and denied their most basic human rights.
They have been able to.
So I think what they had, what you're seeing here is this was a re-upload because the content they're showing was getting getting banned from YouTube, I would assume.
Effectively defend the indefensible.
They can't even show what
the American public.
They can't even show what was being censored.
The Israeli government is involved in numerous internet projects. Director General of Israel's Ministry of Strategic Affairs, Sima Vaknin-Gil, told a forum of Israeli tech developers to flood the internet with pro-Israel propaganda. When she was Israel's chief censor, she said, "We censor."
Whenever you see Hebrew like that, they're about to hit the translate. It's going to be all this crazy, all these crazy calls to violence and stuff. That's like a thing. If you ever go on like the Hebrew side of X and you start translating these tweets, you can see how violent these people are.
Information that is critical to our enemies, who have no capabilities like us, do not have a Jewish brain, and therefore our enemy relies to a large extent.
That's the ultimate mask off when you just start translating Hebrew.
And on open information. Her ministry has a budget of roughly $70 million to fight what it calls a war on consciousness terrorism. To win it, she said, Israel must use tricks and craftiness.
Ah, okay. There's that
Another Israeli entity that plays a role in covert internet activity is the Israeli military's legendary high-tech spy branch, Unit 8200. This unit is composed of thousands of cyber warriors, primarily 18 to 21 years of age, some even younger. An article in the Jewish press reports that Unit 8200 has developed a great reputation for effectiveness in intelligence gathering, including operating a massive global spy network. Numerous Israeli tech companies, many of them headed by former military intelligence officers, assist in these online spying efforts, sometimes receiving Israeli government funding for digital initiatives aimed at gathering intelligence on activist groups and countering their efforts. To be clear, this is all part of an effort by an occupying government and its military working covertly to achieve censorship of reporting on its atrocities.
Yeah. So I think I'll stop it here. You get the idea, but yeah, that's where all the that's where when you're seeing all these politicians. I mean, I look at that stuff and this is what I see. I don't know that there's IDF organizations that are actually posting on behalf of these politicians, but that's kind of what's driving the online discourse. So yeah, let's go back to the interview here, see if there's any other notable references that our guy, the melting clay face, Ted Cruz, ends up saying.
The French, the question, what about the Jews?
Senator,
What about the Jews?
Oh,
Like
I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions.
All right, let's
You're
back
not
up
talking
for a
about
second.
Chinese. You're not.
So let's just back up just to get remember what he's talking about here. This is where he starts accusing Tucker of being an anti-Semite.
You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh,
Like
I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions, Tucker.
Me.
You're asking. What?
So now if you criticize China or any of those other countries that he just named, are you racist? Are you like against their entire existence as a race? If you criticize the Chinese government, are you there isn't even an anti-Chinese weaponized word. for being anti-China, but if there were, are you opposed to like the existence of the Chinese people if you criticize their government? What about Russia? Are you anti-Slav if you are critical of the Russian government? Certainly not in America.
Why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
That's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy.
He's spiraling, man. He's really spiraling with this. Reverting to the old anti-Semitism. I mean, we just looked at where that comes from. We just saw exactly where that comes from and why they used that attack, why they weaponized that term. So this is all to gaslight. It's all just gaslighting.
Feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran.
So, just to be clear, again, I can't flip back to the tab, but all of those politicians that were screenshotted recently, all saying the same thing. We're praying for Israel. We're praying for Israel. Pray for Israel. They're not obsessed because they are supportive. But if you are critical of Israel, you're obsessed and you're anti-Semitic. I mean, this is just so midway. This is really, no one's buying this stuff anymore. No one's buying it. That's why this was such a great expose of a U.S. senator on this, who's in the public, at least among many kind of boomer conservatives, seen as kind of a champion of the Republican Party, Ted Cruz, and now he's getting completely exposed. So again, I know this is stuff we mostly are aware of, but the fact this is now in the mainstream, the mainstream discourse, and people who have been watching, who've been continuing to watch Tucker, are now being exposed to this is really good. So,
and so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the
if I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll
in a
answer any
straightforward,
question
rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
He won't do it.
Shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me.
You just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. I have... This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with...
Yeah, it's actually... you could argue, if anti-Semitism were a real thing, you could argue that it's anti-Semitic to conflate the Israeli government with all Jews. That's like what the left does with black people, expecting black people to vote for Democrats and stuff. That's kind of like a normie conservative talking point.
With each other. I'm talking about the influence
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other.
All Jews, or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that. Okay. But now, because
except you don't want to do anything about it,
decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person who's only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest. To what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try to...
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I'm
just asking questions.
He's the one getting worked up. He's like, let's ratchet down the temperature. He's getting all fired up and use, slandering and seething.
Yes, that's it. That is what I'm doing.
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit.
Okay. Picture the house of your dreams.
All right, so let's fast forward this.
It's great
So,
movies.
Again, I don't know how much they talk about this. I'm just trying to skim through the chapter sections here, but yeah, it looks like is Israel. Okay, this is where we get into the dispensationalism coming up. So plenty to cover here. So thanks again if you're still tuned in. Appreciate you all joining me here. I don't really have a set time. Thought we'd just kind of take our time with this. If you have any comments, you can post in the chat. I would imagine this is my YouTube channel. Even though I just started streaming on here, it's probably monetization is probably not anywhere in the future if I continue to cover this kind of content. So, if you wanted to have have your message read on the stream, you can donate $5 for TTS. You can support me at thereversion.co, become a paid subscriber. You get all kinds of great benefits joining our Discord community. We have some private channels there, and you get access to my entire archive, including the recent article series that I wrote that will be published as a book, which goes into pretty in-depth detail on the occult origins of all of this stuff, like how, not as much about the U.S. policy and things like that, but more on the religious side and how the Protestants and evangelicals played a major role in all this.
Actually, a fun comedy about politics, and Eddie Murphy in the movie is a con man who gets elected to Congress, and he's literally a con man who the congressman dies, he has the same name, and so he runs and they get elected. And there's a scene in the movie where Eddie Murphy is a freshman member of Congress, and he's sitting down with a sleazy lobbyist. And he's asking the lobbyist, all right, what should my positions be on, I think they were talking about power plants and electrical transmission lines. And the lobbyist's like, well, what do you believe? And Eddie Murphy, the con man, said, I don't care. Whatever gets me the most money. I'll do whatever gets me the most money. And the lobbyist says, no. Pick a side. Doesn't matter what you pick. If you pick one side, we'll go shake down everyone who supports that side and they'll give you money. If you pick the other side, that's fine. We'll just go to the other side and shake down that. That's a little bit the way it works. And you often get leftists in the media who say, for example, if you support the Second Amendment, as you do and I do, well, you're just bought and paid for by the NRA. And that actually is backwards. I believe in the Second Amendment because I believe in the Constitution. Now, am I proud that the NRA supports me? Sure, because people who care about the Second Amendment want to support leaders who fight for it. But it gets it backward. Look, AIPAC, when I ran for the Senate, AIPAC didn't support me. I supported Israel before they supported me. I'm happy to have their support because they share my objective.
No, but you're missing it. I'm not suggesting that you're bought and paid for. I'm not saying that.
I want to go back and take the transcript because you just said a minute ago, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but are you lobbying for a foreign government because they pay you a lot of money? That's basically what you said. So you are suggesting that.
Let me just be clear about what I think. Your views seem totally sincere.
Yes.
You take money from people who agree with you.
So this is another reason why it's crucial for him to avoid any kind of admission, even subtle admission that that AIPAC is tied to the Israeli government. Because as a politician, I mean, as a U.S. politician, he has a tremendous incentive to obviously avoid that any kind of allegations about that. So that's why he's spiraling and seething, because that's essentially what Tucker's trying to get at. Even though he's being relatively kind of like polite about it, he could be going much harder at Ted Cruz here, because that is what he's insinuating. And Ted, he's not dumb. He's making really dumb arguments because he's a politician. He has to, but he knows exactly what's going on here. So that's why he's getting all emotional, because that's exactly what Tucker's getting at, that he's actually accepting, and not just him, any U.S. politician who's receiving funding from AIPAC, which is like, I mean, pretty much isn't that every Republican? Isn't there only like maybe one or two Republicans in Congress or Senate that we know of who are not receiving funding from AIPAC? I think it was Thomas Massey who was actually admitting this on Tucker, that every Republican congressman has an AIPAC guy. So someone who's like monitoring them and, making sure that they're doing what Ted's doing here and towing the narrative and stuff. And that's, he has as much incentive as any of these other guys to not have any association with receiving money from a foreign state. So that's the context of why he's crying and going crazy.
Yeah, I believe that. I
take money from people who disagree with me.
I'm only trying to get to the question of, to what extent is the U.S. government influenced by other governments? And it's a lot.
Of course.
It's hardly just Israel. It's hardly just Israel. I don't think Israel's the main one. There are lots of governments. China is a massive influence on this city.
And it's a huge
problem.
problem.
As you know, I couldn't agree more. And there are lots of other. The UK, which is a truly sinister place, in my opinion, as a ethnic Brit, I can say. I think that's my view. Maybe you disagree.
I think they're on the wrong path. I love
Whatever,
the Brits, but their government
without
is
even
gone
getting
off the
into that.
rails.
I'm just saying I don't think Israel's the only one, but it's the only one where you're instantly called an anti-Semite for asking questions, and it's also the only government that no one will.
Tucker's onto this. He knows too much. Tucker might, I say what you want about Tucker. I mean, I know there's like, his dad was a Fed and stuff. Like, say what you want about him, but I mean, anyone that's like kind of breaking the conservative normie kind of narrative and discourse, breaking the glass seal. What is it? Breaking the glass ceiling or whatever it's called. This is like, I mean, I'll take the win. I'll take the wins that we can get. Right. Like this is, I'm not saying Tucker's our guy, but this is a big dub. This is a big W here.
Will ever criticize. And
people criticize Israel every minute of every day. Like the only government that people will not criticize, Rashida Tlaib just tweeted out calling Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal.
Rashida Tlaib? No,
I said no one will criticize.
No, I'm talking about Republicans that I would vote for, including you. And I'm saying, whatever. I don't even like talking about Israel. What I care about, I never do, because it's not worth being called anti-Semites from
who cares,
AIPAC
man?
recipients.
Let them call you that.
But now we're on the verge of joining a war, and I just want to be clear about why we're doing this.
All right, so and let's get into Iran momentarily, but you suggested it was a strange thing that I said a minute ago, that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be the leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why. So let me tell you why.
No, you said I was obsessed with Israel, and you had just told me that like your driving motive to get to the Senate was to defend Israel. I'm like, I don't think I'm the.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Tucker has Father Seraphim Rose books on his bookshelf, because when he was visited by Father Peter Heers, Father Peter brought all this Orthodox literature and gifted it to him, and that included Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future, the Orthodox Survival Course, Nihilism, and I forget what other ones, but I was able to actually identify that. I posted it on X. I was looking at his bookshelf, and I recognized the spine of some of the books because I have them on my shelf, and I was like, that's Father Seraphim Rose. I know those colors. I know that text, the font, enhance, and of course, it's Father Seraphim Rose. He's got a whole section there. So pray that he actually, I don't know if he has read those books or not, but pray for Tucker that he at some point ends up reading those books that are on his shelf. There's they're the most important books that he has on his shelf, and he maybe doesn't even realize it.
What is obsessed with Israel?
Okay, so Tucker, words matter.
Uh-huh.
And you know that. I said I resolved to be the leading defender of Israel, and you said your driving motive, the reason you're in the Senate.
You want to be the leading defender of Israel. I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug ODs on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. and you played a very, very careful word game of eliding.
You're the one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in
Here we
Sunday
go.
school, I was taught from the Bible, those who
Bible.
bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Boomer evangelicals getting one-shotted by the word concept fallacy once again. As always, the probably the most detrimental word concept fallacy of the modern world. It's just insane how I was taught this in Bible school or in Sunday school. I was taught it by who? By Pastor Jim. Pastor Jim taught you that. So that means that's what that is. So and we've seen this clip. We've all seen this at this point. I think this was the one that went viral. So let's see this play out here.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my.
Yeah, so he doesn't even know what it is.
It's in Genesis, but so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It's evangelical catechesis for you right there. It's just that one verse that, and we could actually let's do this now since we're on the topic. I want to pull up. I have it saved here. What exactly it says in the Schofield Reference Bible on this is Genesis 12, verse 3, I believe. So let's pull this up and see what it actually says. I thought I had it pulled up. Let me see here. Oh, I have it. Okay, one sec. I thought I had it on deck, but oh, you know what? I have it in my. Here, let's do this. I've got it here in my. This is in the article you're seeing behind the paywall right now. So this is where I. My article. It's called Kabbalah and Christian Zion, or it's called what did I name it? I changed the name. Kabbalah and the Christian Zionist Conspiracy, I believe it's called. So towards this part here, I get into, yeah, here it is, the dispensationalism delusion. And so this is where I go into a little bit of the occult origins of dispensationalism. You can see how it derived from a Jesuit. A pretty hilarious story, actually, that maybe we can get into this later. I don't want to get too off topic, but this was the figure, Margaret MacDonald, who first conceived of the rapture doctrine, which came to her in a dream. Literally, it came to her in a dream. It was this revelation. She was an occultist. She was like levitating and everything, involved in all this New Age stuff, and had very little Christian education. And so this was, then disseminated to, I'm really summarizing this here, but it was then disseminated to Darby, who integrated it with his evolution of the dispensationalist theology. He did not come up with it. He kind of just helped evolve it before it became systematized by Schofield. And, I go into the Plymouth Brethren cults that Darby was running, which Aleister Crowley was a member of. And by the way, dispensationalism influenced Crowley's theosophy as well. This is where he came up with the concept of the aeons. These are just historic dispensations. Where was I getting at here? Oh, yeah, the Schofield. Okay, so let's go down here. Oh, I was in the wrong section, but yeah, Schofield's Talmudic scam goes viral. So this is how, basically, like the Schofield Bible, it was actually the nail in the coffin to solidify American evangelical support for creating the state of Israel. A lot of people think it was like Darby and Schofield. It really wasn't like dispensationalism wasn't a popular idea, and even support of Israel as a nation state was not popular in America at the time. So, I explain in here how it became, like, why America, and particularly American evangelicals, became crucial in supporting this, what England had already established, what the UK had with the signing of the Balfour Declaration. So they still needed American support. The Balfour Declaration didn't solidify it. They needed American support. So, you can see how this developed here, but, there's ties to this guy, Samuel Untermeyer, who was a Rothschild affiliate, who helped funding the publishing of the Oxford Scofield Bible. And by the way, the Oxford University Press had the rights to the Scofield Bible, so they even added footnotes and commentaries posthumously after Scofield had died. And I go into that a little bit here, how they added all of this stuff about, like, how being anti-Semitic would be a curse, would put like a curse on you, stuff like that. They added that into the commentary later on in some of the later versions. But this is what I was trying to find here. So by the end of World War II, over 2 million Scofield Bibles were propagated through American Bible colleges, Protestant pulpits, and embedded in 20th century evangelical theology, fueling the viral dispensational fury. Among the reference Bible commentaries contained what would become the Christian Zionist mantra on Genesis 12:3, where Scofield noted, "I will bless them that bless thee," in fulfillment closely related to the next clause, "and curse him that curseth thee," wonderfully fulfilled in the history of the dispersion. It has invariably fared ill with the people who have persecuted the Jew, well with those people who have protected him, with those who have protected him. The future will still more remarkably prove this principle. So he's just asserting this presupposition into the commentary, and it was basically read by evangelicals as if it's part of Scripture, because obviously sola scriptura, how do I interpret all this stuff? Well, I need a reference Bible, I need a commentary, I need someone who knows what they're talking about to explain it to me. Please explain this, right? And so they had all these fake credentials tied to Scofield to make him look like an authority figure, that you can see here. They added this DD, I guess, doctorate that he didn't have. There's no evidence that he ever received a doctoral degree. So, he was not an academic. They faked his academic credentials so that he had, some level of authority to say this kind of nonsense. Yeah, and so here, the word anti-Semitism. Oh yeah, there was more here. As British foreign policy interests aligned with the developing state of Israel, Scofield's posthumous notes in the Bible became increasingly pro-Zionist over time. So after he was dead, it became increasingly more Zionist. So this is the thing that people miss. It's like, you could argue that Oxford University Press had more influence over the public evangelical perception of like the fulfillment of these prophecies than even Scofield himself had. So they added in the 1967 edition, the Genesis 12:3 commentary was revised to include the footnote, "For a nation to commit the sin of anti-Semitism brings inevitable judgment." There you go. The word anti-Semitism was invented by a Jewish Zionist in 1860 named Moritz Steinschneider to promote the notion that the Jewish race is uniquely special, thus required a special classification of bigotry, now effectively popularized in the pages of the Scofield Bible. So there you go. This is what happens when you're fully dependent on publishers to dictate your theology, essentially. Bible publishers dictate your theology. Well, you're now subject to whatever authority they have interpret the text for you. And that's how you get here. So yeah, you could, again, this was like kind of a preview of what's behind the paywall in the second half of this article. You can read the whole first half for free. And people have been like kind of calling me out that I paywalled it. And the only reason that I did is because I plan to publish this as a book. There's another part to this. So there's about 10,000 words that you can read for free. And people are still complaining, but yeah, I mean, what can I do, man? It's like, they want a book. So what point would it be to make it all for free if it's going to be a book? So, I mean, look, $9 a month, you can get access to this and the book club and a ton of other resources and my entire archive of work. So I don't think that that's like grifting or whatever. Anyway, so yeah, that's some context of like, how did why is Ted Cruz saying this stuff, right? This is just the main, like I said, mantra of the evangelicals, right? This is why their whole entire support for Israel is justified by that commentary of Genesis 12:3. It's insane. Their entire eschatology, it's all from one Bible verse and a commentary on it and a word concept fallacy. So, all right, let me get back to the interview here. Again, thanks for tuning in, and forgive my kind of roughness on switching over the different content on this stream. I'm still working on just smoothing things out as I start doing these more. Okay, let's do this. Present. Yeah, it's making me, I have no choice. I have to, because I'm using StreamYard. It's like, if you want audio, you got to switch tab.
Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
No, it's not. You're not biblically commanded. You're commanded by D.D.C.I. Schofield and Oxford University Press.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was
Where
the
does
people
it say
of Israel.
nation?
Is the nation
They're the
God's
descendants of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
This is how absurd this is when you break it down. I know that, again, I know we all know this already. But when you really break this down, it's just so absurd. So that prophecy in Genesis 12:3, where it's about Abraham and the covenant and everything, that's all that applied. Like, that was never fulfilled until 1948. That's what these evangelicals believe. That for up until 1948, until the 20th century, it was a complete mystery what these prophecies meant. They were completely unfulfilled, and we didn't have the full context until 1940, until the Rothschilds helped aid in the creation of this state that was founded on terrorism, by the way, from the start. That didn't develop later on. And you'll see in Alison Weir's book that I mentioned earlier that there's actually some of the early prime ministers of Israel were connected and involved in these rogue terrorist organizations and the bombing of various sites in Jerusalem. I think one of them was the what was it? Not a library. It was like, I forget what it was. There was this famous bombing, but these were terrorists. So and so they always accuse their enemy of what they do. So that they and maybe that's not to say there aren't like terrorist groups in Palestine or whatever that are these radical Muslims, but they frame this whole conflict as like, well, it's the Israelis are the good guys and we're just fighting terrorism. We're protecting the world from all this terrorism. So, yeah, that's in Alison Weir's book if you want more on that.
Yes,
it is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator.
Yeah, King David Hotel. Thank you. Yes, the King David Hotel. Yeah, the King David Hotel bombing. So actually, let me switch back here and I can show you the reference to that. from the book. Okay. So, all right, let me see if I can find it here. Just give this a second while it loads. Okay, King David Hotel. Where is that? I think this is the wrong. I don't think this is the right text here. You know what? Actually, there's it's on her website. So let me go back here and so if actually you can read the whole book. I believe she first published it like similar to what I just did with my articles. Like she published this as like a research piece, and it kept growing and growing, and then she just published it as a book. So see if I can find it here. No, it's not called. It's called Against Our Better Judgment. Sorry, I did not. I thought I had this ready, and I didn't. Where is it? Okay. All right, we'll just go here. Oh, here's a PDF. Okay, so I don't know what version that is that I had there, but that wasn't it, because I was like, why is it 1,000 pages? Oh, that was it, huh? Terrorism. Yeah, I don't know that I don't have my notes on me. That's in the other. I have all my notes and stuff on this in the other room. So, I'm trying to find the guy's name. Oh, you know what? I just posted it on. I posted it recently on here. So, oh yeah, here's one of Ted Cruz's Cope tweets. By the way. Oh wait, can you guys see this? Oh my gosh, you can't. Okay, massive fail. I was sharing the wrong thing. You can't even see what I'm looking at here. Okay. There we go. Okay, I posted this. Let me see if I can find it. Posted it pretty recently. What I'm looking for is, yeah, here it is. Yeah, the Zionist terror bombing of the King David Hotel. Yeah, Menachem Begin is his name. He eventually became the prime minister. This guy. So, you know, in regards to what we were just learning about the Wikipedia editing, I wonder if that's on here. Yeah, it is. Okay, as the head of Irgun, he targeted the British in Palestine with a notable attack being the King David Hotel bombing. So that's like right in the first, second paragraph of his Wikipedia. He was the leader of a notorious terrorist organization. So this is, they made this guy the prime minister. He's the prime minister of Israel in 1978. Crazy. Not even suspected of being a terrorist, not even alleged. He led a terrorist organization that was involved in the bombing of the King David Hotel. So, like I said, this stuff, it was going on since the invention of the state of Israel. It's not like it just developed later. So, yeah, they didn't censor. I mean, I guess there's only so much you could do, because like this stuff is, I don't know how. Again, keep in mind the video we watched, it was kind of old, and now we're in the noticing age. So it's like I think that they're just outnumbered. They're just simply outnumbered, and that's why the noticing is even happening in the first place. Because it's just they became too outnumbered. They just can't control it anymore. So that might have something to do with it. I don't know. But, you know, you can go back in the Internet Archive and just see, like, if this was edited or revised at any point, if you wanted to do something like that. But I don't have time for that. All right, so let's get back to the video here.
It's a
I'm not
democratic
saying he's a
country that
dictator.
elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like, you know, America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is
there.
silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
You
that is
believe
Israel.
that's what God was talking about in
Yes.
Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70.
The country has Yeah, the country as a state entity didn't exist for thousands of years. It didn't exist as a nation state for thousands of years. That land existed for thousands. I think that's what he's trying to say. The land existed for thousands of years, but not as the state of it. Like, this is ridiculous, man.
But I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay. It is.
Didn't even know where
you
it
don't
was.
even know where
Yeah.
in the Bible it is. So
I don't remember the scriptural citation.
So they can't even, like, this is dogma. That's the thing. It's like, this is a dogma, this verse, this one verse interpreted through the, you know, context of the Schofield Bible it's boomer evangelical dogma. They are not willing to even entertain a possibility of an alternative interpretation to this whatsoever. This might as well be the Trinity for them. So that's why, like, it doesn't matter that he doesn't know where it is. This is just like instilled in his, like, in his like deluded mind.
But okay, I keep
it's like Genesis 16 or something like that. But yes, it's in the earlier part of the book. But the point is,
all right, Tucker, you keep interrupting me before I finish my
it's
sentence.
important to know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're saying as a Christian. If I believe in,
So now, like, Ted's getting called out because keep in mind, he said that this was one of the two reasons why he supports Israel, accepts all this money from AIPAC and all this, and is like so invested in Israel, even though we're the ones obsessed with it, or Tucker's obsessed with it, or whatever. And he's getting all offended that Tucker is pressing him on what he's considering one of two justifications for this, for supporting this foreign entity. And so he's getting all offended that it's like, dude, you were the one that said that this was one of your, this is one of your two justifications. So now he's just getting all butthurt that he's being challenged on it.
Jesus, I have to support the modern state of Israel.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm explaining for me what my motivation is.
But okay,
So
so
one
I'm just trying to
Bible verse?
understand. You said God tells you to support the modern state of Israel in the Bible, in some place in the Bible that you heard about, but you don't know where it is. That's your theology?
You're going back. Am I a sleazy feline again? I mean,
if you accuse me of anti-Semitism again, I will say that, but I don't think you will.
Try to be a little less condescending. I'm trying to have a conversation.
Condescending. You're throwing this stuff out, and it's my job to figure out what you're talking about.
Okay,
but I don't understand.
But you're not letting me.
Okay. I'm sorry. I want to be polite.
That is for me a personal motivation, but I also, what I was about to say,
it's retarded.
I don't believe my personal faith, not everyone who I represent is a Christian. It's not an argument for me to give.
You don't represent anyone as a Christian because that's not a Christian doctrine. So you don't speak for Christians. If you're using a Bible verse and a word concept fallacy to justify the systematic genocide of an entire, now two countries at least, and both in which involve a Christian, relatively small Christian population, but there's Christians being bombed because of this, and babies. So you don't get to speak for Christians. I'm sorry, Ted Cruz.
That we should do this because of my faith. And so as an elected official, I don't give that as the reason we should support Israel. That is a personal motivation for me, but I don't think it is the reason we should. The reason that I am the leading defender of Israel is because Israel is our strongest ally in the Middle East, an incredibly troubled part of the world, and supporting Israel benefits America.
What did they do for us? Why don't Tucker should ask him this one question? What does Israel do for us that they're our strongest ally? Because I think what it is we are their strongest ally. What does Israel do for us? I mean, I can name all this. I can name all the terror that they've imposed on us, but what do they do to actually benefit us as a country? I would love to see a single politician answer that question, even just give one answer to that. How do they help us? How do they, not only that, but how do they help us in a way that justifies sending $3.8 billion per year to them? Are we really getting our money's worth? Oh, they spy on us. That's what they do to help us. They spy on us. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can't exist as a nation unless we have Mossad spying on us.
And the clearest illustration of that is what is happening right now. Let me just make this point, and then
then I'll just ask what you mean. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, Iran, I think the most acute national security threat facing America right now is the threat of a nuclear Iran. I think China is the biggest long-term threat, but acute and near-term is a nuclear Iran.
Okay.
And I think Israel is doing a massive favor to America right now by trying to take out Iran's nuclear capacity. And the reason I view Iran differently, we talked before about Iraq. I opposed the Iraq war. We talked about Syria. I opposed military intervention in Syria. The reason for that is those did not pose a threat to the United States. I think Iran is markedly different. Number one, the Ayatollah is a religious zealot. He is a lunatic, but a particularly dangerous kind of lunatic because he's driven by religious fervor. When he says death to America and death to Israel, I believe him. And I think Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon because there is a very real possibility they would use a nuclear weapon.
They don't even have, do we know that Iran has nuclear weapons? Do we even know that that's the case? Like, so we're bombing them on a false pretense again, just like Iraq, isn't it? That's pretty much what's happening, isn't it? I mean, I'm no geopolitics expert, but I mean, what's going on here? Like, do we have evidence that Iran has nuclear weaponry? This is just insane.
So you want to ask, how does supporting Israel benefit us? Right now, this tiny little country, the size of the state of New Jersey, is fighting our enemies for us and taking out their top military leadership and trying to take out their nuclear capacity. That makes America much safer.
But wait, why can't we do that then? If that's what, if we're taking this pro-war stance, this pro-military invention or military interventionist position where we're getting involved in foreign governments and foreign state powers, why don't we send our troops to do this? Why do we have to have Israel fight our battles for us? Why do we have to have a country, as Ted Cruz says, the size of the state of New Jersey to fight our wars for us and send $3.8 billion per year for them to do this when we can just do it ourselves, even though we still shouldn't even be doing that?
So the president has said repeatedly Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon,
yes,
and he will do whatever it takes to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. He said that like 100 times.
So this is like, I don't want to get too into like the geopolitics stuff here. But this whole section is about, okay, how does funding Israel benefit? So it's all copes about, more of what you just heard there about how great Israel's support of our country is, what they do for all the great things they do for us.
And I help them. I agree.
So
with you.
I wanted to go to, are there Iranian assassins trying to kill Trump? It's like, okay, yeah. I want to see more on this. Okay, it talks about the Ukraine-Russia war. And is Russia an enemy? So they talk about Russia. I think that's about it for the Israel stuff. I mean, we can just see where this goes here, but
and by the way, like Iran
This just seems like a huge headline, and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now. We should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
If they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
Then
they
why
are
are we
enemies.
at war with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we are trying to
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president?
Yeah.
There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're trying to murder
the use of nuclear weapons,
whatever
that's part of the problem of.
Well, we get President Vance. We get the Palantir Prez in there. Yeah, I mean, would it be the worst? It'd be bad. It would not be ideal, but I mean, it's like you'd have the same foreign entities controlling the government anyway. You'd still have President Benjamin Netanyahu as the acting leader of the United States. Like, it really wouldn't. I don't think it would change all that much. But obviously, don't want to see that happen. But like, this is just a ridiculous talking point here.
So what do you mean? You don't seem to take the allegations seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
Can I ask something? And I mean this sincerely. So, all right, 20 years ago, you were, I think it's fair to say, in the interventionist world. You were a vocal,
big time.
You were a vocal defender of the Iraq War.
I was a promoter of the Iraq War.
And you now, and look, I think you were mistaken. I think you were mistaken. That's okay. Look, people change and learn, and that's part of the journey of being human. Your views have moved, though. In my view, they've gone way too far the other end. And so I'm just
totally
really
confused. I'm saying, hold on. Wait, this is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had. I'm saying if it's true that Iran is trying to murder Trump, we need to move militarily against Iran immediately. That's not isolationism. That's the most. That's a cult of violence, which I am calling for. If we believe that Iran is trying to murder our president, we need to strike Iran.
Okay, but isolationists say things like, well, then just nuke them, which is what you just said, which is kind of a weird...
Because I'm upset.
So wait, what's the argument? Like, why did he bring this up? Is this justification? Is this like something that Israel is doing for us? So they're preemptively bombing Iran because they want to take out President Trump? Is that really... like his whole line of argumentation here for like, this is one of the greatest things that they're doing for us that, justifies $3.8 billion per year. It's like, we're protecting the president. So like, this is just so retarded.
Because I'm taking you seriously. You don't take your own statements seriously.
I take my statements very seriously.
So I've asked you, where's the evidence this is true? And you've said, well, they're trying to assassinate Brian Hook or something, which I'm against, by the way. I'm against hurting any American, period, no matter.
So do you dispute that they're trying to murder?
I'm not disputing it at all.
And Bolton?
I'm not disputing it at all.
They literally arrested the hitman.
So send a bunch of American soldiers to die for Israel because they want to kill our president, or Iran does. So we should actually not only send them money, but send them our troops. So put American lives on the line for this. So this is the level of argumentation that these senators. This is a U.S. senator. This is like I'm baffled by this. I don't know.
And with Bolton,
I don't know why that's even relevant. I'm asking about the president of the United States.
Wait, it's not relevant that Iran hired hitmen to murder cabinet members in Trump's administration.
How do we
that
know
doesn't
that?
go to.
Wait, do we? Where is this coming from? This is like what? Where did this come from? He's just throwing this out there. That Iran hired hitmen. Does anyone has anyone heard this before? Am I just like out of the loop? I don't know. I've never heard this before.
I've already
credible
said
is it that they're willing to spend money to do that?
Opposed to that. It's awful. I am against killing anybody, actually, and especially foreign government. Okay. I'm asking about your allegation and the Prime Minister of Israel's allegation that Iran is trying to murder the president.
Killing terrorists is a good thing. Killing people who are trying to murder Americans is a good thing. Because if you're America first, you want to protect America, and so killing Osama bin Laden was a fantastic.
But you don't
day
really
for the
believe
world.
that they're trying to murder Trump, or
yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Then why aren't you calling for military action against Tehran right now?
Because they're not very effective. In terms of hitmen, their hitmen are not very effective. I do think...
So they're hitmen, but not the bad kind, the efficient kind?
No,
what are you saying?
They're a weak country who is on its knees, and I think we need to...
Then why are we so afraid of them? Why are they the biggest threat if they're a weak country that's on its knees?
Because they're trying...
I'm trying to keep track.
They're trying to develop... Be a little less snarky.
I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
You know what? Good for Tucker, though. These people, like, I have no sympathy for these people. This guy, like, he deserves a lot worse. He should have gotten completely skewered on this because, like, Tucker's actually going easy on him. I mean, this is the justification they're using for, again, the systematic genocide of an entire population that he can't even name how many there are of this population. By the way, he doesn't, like, he made a whole meme about it. Oh, just post all these Babylon Bee memes that, oh, you can't name how many. What was the Babylon Bee? They posted like, Ted Cruz can't name how many Pokemon the Ayatollah has captured or something. Like, just belittle this whole important point that a U.S. senator who's now trying to publicly justify why we're involved in this war, he can't even name the population. He can't even name how many people that he wants to wipe off the face of the earth. It's just however many are there. It's, what are you talking about? Why would you ask that? What a silly question. It's just Iran. You don't need to know how many. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about how many people are there that we want to kill. So he doesn't deserve these softball questions and, like, yeah, maybe Tucker's being a little snarky or something, but, I don't think that these people are parasites, these politicians that are, they're not America first. They're just using that term. They're using that term. They're America first, and they're leveraging a foreign government to do stuff that we're not even willing to do. That he can't even justify why we should do it ourselves.
They're trying to develop nuclear weapons. They're close to developing nuclear weapons. And even a weak country with a nuclear weapon. Look, I believe there is a very real possibility if the Ayatollah develops a nuclear weapon that he would detonate it either in Tel Aviv or New York or Los Angeles.
But we don't bomb people based on these kinds of assumptions, though. I firmly believe if he had, like, he just made up some hypothetical. We don't commit atrocities on an entire population because of these kinds of assumptions. I'm sorry.
That would be utterly catastrophic. And I don't know what the chances are of that. Let me compare and contrast Iran to North Korea.
Wait, can I just ask one last question about trying to kill the president? You sincerely believe, you promise, that right now the Iranian government is trying to murder our president?
Yes.
You sincerely believe right now?
Absolutely.
And yet you are not calling for military action against the government that's trying to murder our president. Can you explain that?
No, you can't.
I don't think they're very effective. I do think we should, by the way, America is
You're willing to take that risk?
Man,
I think
these
we
are
should
good
protect
questions.
the president and we should take out our enemies.
There's your politician.
Israel is doing that right now.
But aren't they? Why would we outsource
and by
it to
the
Israel?
way,
if
your
they're
first
trying
question was, why are you for regime change? That's a pretty good example of why I'm for regime change.
Okay, so you're saying we should just go in and take out the government of Iran.
No.
Why would we outsource it to Israel if they're trying to murder our president? Okay, you sound like the isolationist.
What I'm saying on any military judgment is there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis of what are the risks versus what are the benefits. In this instance, I think it is enormously in America's interest to do what Israel is doing right now, take out Iran's senior military leadership and take out their nuclear capacity. That is benefiting America, and it is a good risk reward. I would oppose invading Iran and putting boots on the ground to topple the government. If the risk got severe enough, I would support that, but I think the relative risk is not severe enough to justify that step at this time. What I would absolutely oppose under any circumstances is invading Iran and then staying and trying to turn them into a democracy. And part of where Iraq really went off the rails is not only did we topple someone who was fighting radical Islamic terrorists, who was a bad guy, but then we tried the vision of interventionists. It actually overlaps with the vision of a lot of Democrats. Let's go promote democracy in the world.
I agree.
And it is our military's job to kill the bad guys, to defend America. It's not their job to defend international norms. It's not their job. So I have zero desire for the U.S. military to turn Iran into Switzerland. Look, would it be nice if they suddenly became Switzerland? Sure. If I could wave a magic wand, great.
I honestly don't care what their kind of government is. Like, why does that even matter to us? So he's basically saying where we went wrong in Iraq was we stuck around and tried to democratize their government, not the fact that we were there on completely false pretenses. We weren't. It's not because the war started based on a lie. Which is what they're setting up for this war now. They're justifying it based on these assumptions that can't be proven, and that's not the problem. It's like why it was the outcome. It was like why we stayed there too long. I mean, yeah, that was also horrible, but like we should have never been there in the first place. So I don't know that many politicians, Republican politicians, even admit that anymore. I know some of them do, even to this day. But yeah, that's I don't know if you'll see Ted Cruz saying that. I think that's what he's talking about with Tucker, though, where Tucker changed his position.
But I'm not going to send your kids or my kids to be in front of guns to go make that happen.
Well, bless you for that.
So you'll send Israelis to do it instead, but we're anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel. But you'll send Israelis to go fight your wars for you. Making Israelis human shields, are we?
I think that is the lesson that I learned from Iraq. I promoted that war. Apparently, unlike you, I was dumber. And I think that you just articulated the main lesson of it, which is it's hard to do that, and we're not good at it. But
I will, and so we are agreeing on that. I will say as a corollary,
vehemently agreeing.
As a corollary, that doesn't mean that horrible, evil dictators are okay. And going back to Reagan and the Cold War, we have lots of weapons. I am happy to highlight the brutality, the oppression, the human rights abuses of regimes, even though I don't want to invade them.
Except for Israel's
because I think the bully
abuses.
pulpit of American leadership is really powerful. And I think dictatorships are terrified. So I've spent 13 years in this.
There's so much. He's just lying through his teeth. This is like really, if I'm being honest, guys, this is like hard for me to watch now. Just watching this guy just lie and lie. Like he cares so much about foreign governments committing human rights violations, but not Israel, who's committing the grossest human rights violations in like imaginable, probably in world history. It's just disgusting. Like, oh no, they're fighting our wars for us, so we can't say bad thing about them. Or you're anti-Semitic, but not for making them human shields. That's not anti-Semitic.
Senate, one of the things I do frequently is highlight dissidents in Iran and North Korea and China, in Venezuela. People are being tortured. Miriam Ibrahim in Sudan, who was sentenced to 100 lashes and then to be killed for the crime of being a Christian. And I repeatedly went to the Senate floor and shined a light on the government of Sudan. It was corrupt. It was evil. I practically begged Barack Obama, say her name.
Oh, you don't like Christians being martyred and persecuted, huh? Oh, that's interesting.
Ultimately,
I felt that way with the J6 prisoners. Yeah.
Yes. Look, there is power to speaking out. And ultimately, Obama never did say her name. He would not say her name. Ultimately, there was enough international condemnation. The government of Sudan let her go. And so she was not executed. And I met her. So she had a 2-year-old son, Martin, and she gave birth to a little girl named Maya. And she was in leg irons in prison waiting for the death sentence. They were not going to kill her until she gave birth. And they told her, we will not kill you if you will renounce Jesus. And she refused. And I met her. She was in D.C. speaking at a conference after she was released, obviously. And I asked her, she's a tiny woman, very small woman. I asked her, I said, when you were in that prison cell with your kids, how did you have the strength not to just give in to despair? I mean, I've never been threatened with murder unless I renounce my faith. And she just said to me with a real peacefulness, she said, Jesus was with me. And
Sir, have you ever read The Lives of the Saints? No, of course you haven't. We don't nice story, but like, how is that relevant? It's just a diversion. I mean, yeah, nice story, but like, how does this justify funding Israel? How does this justify how Israel is benefiting the United States? Over one Christian, like this is what this is all about. I just don't understand this here. He's trying to do like this tugging of the heartstrings. So I don't know. I don't think this stuff works anymore.
Thankfully, you and I have not faced that circumstance. But I do think there is a responsibility.
There's still time.
There is, and I hope we don't. And actually, I'll use another example. John McCain, who you and I disagreed with on a lot of issues.
John McCain.
I respected and admired him for
I'm
his
sure you
service
did.
and time as a prisoner of war. I think his policies, I disagreed with vehemently and fought against them. But the man fought for America, and he was thrown in prison, and he was tortured.
That's why he got away with all of that. He was a victim. So you have to respect the prisoner of war and let him, he can commit all these war crimes because he was a prisoner of war.
By Vietnam, and he was given the opportunity to be released early. And he turned it down because he thought it would be dishonorable to leave before his fellow servicemen and women. And when I first got here,
there were no women there, but yeah.
Okay, man, you're right. When I first got here, McCain hated my guts, and he actually referred to me and Rand as wacko birds.
I remember.
I have.
Do you think it's scarier if Ted is a liar and deceptive, or if he genuinely believes in evangelical Zionism? I think that both. It's hard to measure which one is like equally, or like which one is. If one is more detrimental than the other. I think they probably go hand in hand. And again, I said in the beginning that it's hard to tell. I mean, it's impossible to tell really how much of this is them lying and how much they truly believe in this, completely delusional heresy. I think a lot of it is like this pandering to the evangelical population. Because I mean, he just proved that, like, he didn't know where this verse even came from. It's one Bible verse that he knows the evangelicals soy face over this. And a lot of like this is part of why that was so effective, that Schofield scam, because it set this like precedence for the spiritual justification of like, oh, this is all fulfillment of prophecy. So the fact that it's intertwined with a deception is like, the question is he lying consciously or just by means of spreading this lie that he heard firsthand? I think it's probably both. Probably a mix of both, because like once you get pressed on this and you dig yourself deeper, you have to start crafting these lies to justify your belief, essentially. So I think they're probably inseparable. I don't know. I don't know that there's like a way to defend any heresy that doesn't involve at some point having to lie to defend your position, because it's all rooted in falsity. So at some point, to defend a falsehood at some point, whether you genuinely believe the falsehood or you are purposely spreading the lie, at some point when you're defending that position, you have to begin lying and continue to lie.
Up on the shelf, I have a baseball cap that a grassroots supporter gave me with a picture of Daffy Duck and labeled wacko birds, which I liked and laughed when. But when he did that, I went to the Senate floor and I gave a speech praising John McCain. And it was the day he had attacked me publicly. And it happened to be, it was the 40th anniversary of his release from the Hanoi Hilton. And I just talked about what a privilege it is to serve with someone who suffered for his country, who served, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, I agree with this comment in the chat. I honestly believe that evangelicalism is the most destructive heresy there has been, both in terms of violence and also spirituality. It's hard to. I also tend to agree with that. When you look at how the saints and the even the modern elders and saints have talked about ecumenism as the prime heresy, as like they call it a super heresy. They don't say that about evangelicalism. They say it about ecumenism. So, but probably that has a lot to do with ecumenism, like the evangelicalism getting intertwined with it. I think evangelicalism will play a major role in ecumenism. But the fact that we have a pretty strong track record of saints and elders and in their aggressive ecumenism language and labeling it a super heresy and all that. I think that's the most dangerous heresy. It's just, I think, harder to see because it's something that is evolving and progressing forward. And this is a more pressing one that involves, it's very present. You can see the damage that it's doing because we're in the moment of it. We're scrolling the timeline and we can see all these horrific images of the damage that this genocide has been doing. And that just that resonates with everyone, not just Orthodox Christians. That resonates with everyone. Can see that physical damage. The ecumenism is I think it's even more dangerous because it's invisible. Like most people aren't going to notice it. It's happening. They might comment on it and stuff and find it a little weird, but most Christians are going to be completely blindsided by ecumenism. So that I think is the more dangerous part. Is just, again, it's not as material, so it's harder to see.
Into where we disagreed on policy on that speech. I just said, look, the man is an American hero and I'm proud to serve with him. But that was meant to be a statement also that if you attack me, I'm going to praise you, not for things that are not praiseworthy. If I disagree with you, I will not be shy about saying it, but for things that are praiseworthy.
I remember that. It was 2013.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way. I went to his cell at the Hanoi Hilton and
oh, wow.
I agree with you about McCain. I just want to end by asking you specifically about what's going to happen next in Iran and what should happen next. So you've called for regime change. You said you don't favor the U.S. military participating in any kind of regime change. You said you don't.
All right. I'm going to wrap this interview up here because there was a couple things I wanted to touch on before we close out the stream. Again, thank you for tuning in. I'm not even looking at how many viewers we have. It doesn't really matter. I'll be posting this later on the Substack. So yeah, if you are tuned in here, thank you for watching. You can feel free to comment, ask questions, whatever in the chat here. But I wanted to switch over to some of the stuff that I left out here during the commentary on, especially on, some of the hidden history as the stream's titled. There's some of the stuff that most people don't know about here. There was at least one thing I wanted to touch on. Let me switch this over. So, okay. So this is another worthwhile read. Also covered in Against Our Better Judgment, but this goes into a little more detail, I believe. I don't remember if there's a whole chapter on this. The Perushim, a secret episode in American Zionist history. So these first couple paragraphs are what I really wanted to read here. Horace M. McCallum, and now just for some context, this was found in the American Jewish Historical Quarterly. So this is a Jewish journal from 1975, written by Sarah Schmidt. And so it says here, Horace M. Callan, the social philosopher best known in American intellectual history for his theory of cultural pluralism, adopted Zionism in 1903 as a secular mode of retaining Jewish identity, an alternative to the Jewish religious tradition, which seemed to him to be incompatible with 20th century America. He had come to Zionism primarily through the influence of two of his Harvard professors, literary historian Barrett Wendell, who interpreted the Hebraic spirit of prophetic social justice as the inspiration for the American founding fathers. Interesting. I'll get into that in the article series I mentioned. And William James, whose philosophy of pragmatism emphasized the reality of meanness. Callan extended Wendell's identification of Hebraic tradition with American idealism. He defined Zionism, the movement to renationalize the Jewish people, as an opportunity to found a model of democracy based on the same concepts of liberty and equality, which, for him, symbolized America. At the same time, he applied James's concept of pluralism to the ethnic group, among them the Jews, who were beginning to become prominent in the United States, and argued that a preservation of differences constituted the true measure of equality on the Declaration of Independence had set forth. Zionism thus was able to fulfill two functions for Callan. It allowed him to retain his Jewish identity and become thereby a better American. So there you have the spiritual kind of groundwork being laid for the justification of American Zionism as this mergence of Jewish identity with American idealism in the context of the Hebraic tradition, which involves all these, Enlightenment concepts of liberty and equality. In 1911, Callan became an instructor of philosophy and psychology of the University of Wisconsin. When he moved to the Middle West, he left his familiar environment. Lonely and somewhat out of place in Madison, he felt the need for to assert his Jewish identity more strongly and stepped up his pace of Zionist involvement. Finding little understanding within the official Federation of American Zionists for an expression of his own philosophically oriented ideas on Zionism, and quite some antagonism for his demand that the Zionist organization concentrate its activities on obtaining statehood for the Jewish nation, in line with the 1896 Basel Platform, which had sought a home in Palestine secured by public law. Callan decided to form an organizational instrument through which he could effectively channel his own Zionist activity. And so on August 18th, 1913, therefore, Callan founded a secret Zionist society, which he called the Parushim, the Hebrew word which means both the Pharisee and separate. Okay, there you go. So this Callan figure forms a Zionist secret society based on the Pharisees, and literally called the Pharisees. The Pharisees had flourished as a separate sect during the time of the Second Jewish Temple, goading the Jewish establishment into making the traditional written law more relevant to the times by adding it to the interpretations of the oral law. Callan saw much of the same role for his group of Parushim, whose purpose he defined as an advancement by deed and word to the cause of an autonomous Jewish nationality in the interest of Hebraism. As Callan recalled, the Parushim was a group much like the Peace Corps, young men and women who saw the utopian opportunity that existed for the Jewish people in Palestine and who were willing to devote themselves to an ideal. So all this, utopianism, Enlightenment philosophy, aligning with Hebraism, which, I'm going to kind of shill my articles here, but I cover that in great detail, how this obsession with Hebraism influenced the early reform movements You could find that in the first article. So that's in, gosh. That's in this one here, Kabbalah and the Protestant Revolution. So, and you can find that here. The revolution will be Judaized. So I make this distinction between this Jewish mystical influence of Kabbalah and Hebraism, what they call rational Hebraism, which influenced a lot of the Old Testament interpretation, because they were doing all of this translation work to interpret the Old Testament and consulting rabbis. So all this, Hebraism that was rampant in the early Reform movements, and especially in 17th century English Puritan Reform movements as well. So, you see that aligning. This is partly why it was so appealing to these Puritans, because it was intertwined with the Enlightenment philosophy. So yeah, the Parashim. You can look up this article, the Parashim. It's ifamericansnew.org/history/parashim.html. I haven't been able to find too much else on this. So again, this is a article from the American Jewish Historical Quarterly Journal, 1975. The Parashim was a very unusual Zionist group organized both as a secret fraternity and as a reform movement. Unlike other social groups at the time, both men and women were eligible. There was a certain definite interest in desegregation of the sexes. Enrollment was by an oath of initiation. Okay, so there's an initiation rite. And there was a probationary period for up to 3 years. So like a Zionist catechesis, during which time the initiate was given exclusive and specific service to the cause. Callan invited no one to become a member until the candidate had given specific assurances regarding devotion and resolution to the Zionist cause, and each initiate had to undergo a rigorous analysis of his qualifications, loyalty, and willingness to take orders from the order's executive council. The motto of the group was the response traditionally attributed to the Jewish people on receipt of the Ten Commandments. Nasha v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. So they reinterpret this "we will do and we will hear." We will do and we will hear to an allegiance or an oath to their Zionist secret society. A member swearing allegiance to the Parashim felt something of the spirit of commitment to a secret military fellowship. At the initiation ceremony, the head of the order informed him, "You are about to take a step which will bind you to a single cause for all of your life. You will fear no one. You will for 1 year be subjected to an absolute duty whose call you will be impelled to heed at any time, in any place, at any cost. And ever after, until our purpose shall be accomplished, you will be a fellow of a brotherhood whose bond you will regard as greater than any other in your life, dearer than that of any family, of school, of nation. By entering this brotherhood, you become a self-dedicated soldier in the army of Zion. Your obligation to Zion becomes your paramount obligation. It is the wish of your heart and of your own free will to join our fellowship, to share its duties as tasks and necessary sacrifices." So this is, what, again, was what kind of laid the groundwork for American Zionism, was literally this secret society LARPing as Pharisees, or maybe, probably even just real Pharisees to some degree. So yeah, this is something I haven't seen mentioned in these discussions before. And when I read this book, I was pretty shocked by that. I mean, it's, only shocking to a certain extent. At some point you just, it's not really surprising, but, again, it's like we kind of like put all this emphasis on the Scofield Bible and all this. And it's like, it's really yes, the Schofield Bible played a role in all of this, but it was not like the one thing. It was like there was so much happening that I think is even more shocking than like this heretical commentary of the Bible that was that was published. But all this stuff was just already in motion behind the scenes before that even happened. This was in 1913. Actually, around the same time as the first edition of the Schofield Bible was around the same time. It was like between 1910, 1915. I forget which year they started publishing it. It didn't really make its way into American universities, I believe, until like a decade later. One of his, okay, so yeah, I'm not sure how much, I didn't read this whole thing here, but this is, I believe this is in the book, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, this stuff reads like the protocols. It's like they're just like completely mask off. Like, here's your mission. You will swear, this is what you're dedicated to until our aims are achieved, right? All this same language you see. Yeah, these are letters. So they have letters written that you can read here. So, I won't read this whole thing, but there you go. If I remember, I'll try to leave a link to this in the description, but I'll probably forget. So if you join the Discord, that's probably your best bet, where we post links and articles, stuff like that. Not as often as I would like to see, but we're getting there. It's growing. So yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm just looking at my list, and I don't think there's much else that I wanted to cover. So maybe in another episode, we'll go over the occult history of dispensationalism. I touched on it a little bit, but there's definitely more that can be covered in depth. There's another. What time is it? Okay. If you guys have like 10 minutes, because I was just reminded that there was another pretty unknown figure that played a major role in the popularizing of Christian Zionism. And in fact, I would consider him the godfather of Christian Zionism. And let me pull it up here, since I've already mentioned it. Why not? I've already teased it. I can't find anything here. Okay. So this is in this section here. Okay. Yeah, I'm reading this now, and I think maybe I will save this, because there's some context leading up to this that is important to know. But it's who I'm talking about is Charles Taze Russell. So, but okay, I can start here, but I'll go into this in another episode and just cover like what happened before this. But by 1879, this is before all that stuff we just read. Russell became the most prominent Christian Zionist of his time, teaching that God's favor had been restored to the Jews as a result of a prophetic double, which had ended in 1878, and was also reported to have worked with the Rothschilds in the Zionist project. He was also a alleged Freemason. Some of the Masonic lodges he was accused of being associated with denied his affiliation with them, but there's pretty strong evidence that he was very aware of. I mean, look at his chart here. I mean, look, there's the pyramid. So he was obsessed with pyramids. When he was buried, instead of a cross on his grave, he had a pyramid. So there's the all-seeing eye there at the top of the Great Pyramid. And this is the chart of the ages, which illustrates the dispensations. So he popularized the systemization of dispensationalism prior to the Schofield Bible. So this had already been systematized by Charles Taze Russell. So this is where he's splitting these dispensations in this chart. There's some Masonic language in here too. So that's covered. Again, maybe I can cover that in another one. But this is the guy, by the way, who conceived of this idea of a dual covenant, that the Jews were under another covenant, and so therefore we didn't even need to convert them to Christianity because they were just saved by means of being born a Jew. So here's a really interesting event that I think played a major role in popularizing Christian Zionism. It was kind of what I see as like this pivotal moment. And this was in 1910. So, 7 years before the signing of the Balfour Declaration, 1910, Russell's millenarian writings became the most widely distributed privately published literature in the United States. In his rise to fame, Russell conducted a mass meeting at the Hippodrome, New York's largest theater at the time, where he delivered a sermon titled Zionism and Prophecy on how God had a separate covenant with the Jews apart from the Christians. Thus, Jewish conversion to Christianity was not necessary in their divine calling back to rule as the center of God's kingdom in Palestine. The New York American reported on that day, the spectacle of 4,000 Jews that's a typo, enthusiastically applauding a Gentile preacher after having listened to a sermon he addressed to them concerning their own religion. The mention of the name of a great leader, Herzl, who the speaker declared had been raised by God for the cause, brought a burst of applause. So here he is delivering this sermon, a supposedly Christian sermon, in front of an audience of 4,000 Jews, and causing an unusual spectacle as documented by the reporters that were at the event, of 4,000 Jews giving a standing ovation, a round of applause to a Gentile preacher. Unheard of. And he called for this mass meeting to rally support for a return to the state of Israel prior to its actual invention. With dispensationalism as the final compelling argument for Zionism, British Protestant elites such as Lord Shaftesbury, Lord Palmerston, and Lord Balfour found justification for crafting the Balfour Declaration, fortifying Britain's commitment to creating the Jewish state of Israel. Lionel Walter Rothschild, the head of the Rothschild family in Britain, eagerly endorsed this declaration. However, British support alone was insufficient, and American backing became even more crucial. So that's where the Schofield Bible becomes necessary. But yeah, we can cover that another time. They had some they had some crazy names. Some of these Anglo names and stuff. But I mean, yeah, it's an unfortunate history that we have to understand this stuff, how it came about. And, this didn't just, it'll do us better to acknowledge the other factors that played a role in this other than just Darby and Schofield, And by the way, this Charles Taze Russell, this is getting a little bit into like the backstory here, but he was the founder of the Seventh-day Adventist cult, and started a dispensationalist movement called the Watchtower Society, which later adopted the name Jehovah's Witnesses. So he essentially founded the Jehovah's Witnesses as well. And so, yeah, I explain how this all ties in. All these millenarian cults in the late 19th century and the turn of the 20th century, they all are from like kind of the same region in America and like the Northeast, and they all kind of like emerged from each other. So yeah, these are cults that were like that were birthed from millenarianism. So they were all birthed from like this like kind of end times obsession with like, the Jewish fulfillment of prophecy and all that. So dispensationalist cults they became. But anyway, that's now that's really all I had planned to cover. So I forgot about that, and that was the last thing. I don't have anything else here. So what I'll do is wrap it up. And thanks again for tuning in. You can support my work at thereversion.co. Become a paid subscriber, and there's a lot in it for you as well. You'll gain access to our private community, which is very active and growing, and access to my entire archive. I have a backlog of going on 4 years now of publishing content that is mostly, at this point, mostly behind a paywall. So you can get access to all of that stuff, all of my podcasts, all my written articles, my Eschaton audio series, which I think these are mostly free, and I plan to get back to this. But and you get access to the book club. This is where the real value is. So we're going through a book every month together. There's accountability. We review it together. We are developing a strong habit, a daily practice of actually reading literature and engaging with it and understanding it, and not just reading a book to say you read a book. So we're getting a lot out of this. I'm trying to get on experts in the subjects that are that we're reading about, if I can't get the authors themselves. So we covered over a year of literature at this point. So you can see that all here. Last year we did the whole Orthodox survival course, a good amount of banned books, as I mentioned. So a lot of stuff that people kind of didn't know was out there, and it's all strangely kind of interconnected, even though it wasn't necessarily intentional. But yeah, you'll get access to all that stuff. So it's not just it's not just support. You actually get something in return, which is very important to me, that you're actually getting rewarded for supporting my work. So all right, that's enough of the shilling here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for your support in just watching the stream. So I do plan to do these weekly. And, it's always a slow start whenever you start streaming. It's a new kind of platform and new audience, and you have the time constraints and all that stuff. But I plan to stick to it and consider yourself an early viewer. So thank you, Thaddeus, Nit, Punishing World Gig, anyone else who hasn't commented. Appreciate all you guys. All right. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.